Okay, in this video, we're going to be going over front office reports. When we used to have Opera, this was something that we did on a regular basis for each shift beginning and shift end. We're, in a sense, going back to this ever since the tornado that happened this past May, in which power was out and general chaos. So we are doing this as a backup, essentially, to this. That way we know how many rooms we have, how many rooms are occupied, who's where, etc. And this is going to be a bit of an emphasis on Night Audit, but I'm also going to touch on other shifts as well. But this is specifically front office. I'm not going to get into housekeeping here. So, when you start each shift, first thing you should do is go over the room rack. Now, there's a one way you can do to print off pretty much all the reports at once. They're called downtime reports, which is, again, essentially what we're doing. I do it a bit differently because I look for specific things. Now, this is something I do. I print off this, and you should also do this. So that's all. If you wanted a vacant list, and then clean on change, etc., you can do it that way. But we would do all, okay, and then we would print as soon as this prompt comes up. We would do print, but I don't need to do that. Okay, so every shift should be doing this, as well as arrivals. Now for that, we have to go into reports specifically. And this is the arrivals list for today. Now I do this a little bit differently. So you can see all the arrivals, how many nights they're staying. CRS comments are posted here. I highly recommend that you don't exclude CRS comments, leave that in there. You can include or exclude check-ins, keep the rates, because that's kind of important. Again, that's everybody. I typically will not do this. I will go into MemberWeb, and that's tomorrow. It'll be today in 4 minutes, but today is still the 5th. So I do it this way in MemberWeb, and I print this off. That's just me. That's just how I do it. You don't have to do it this way. But I recommend you do this because this shows exactly what tier people are. And that can sometimes be very important for you to look at, because there may or may not have been an elite member checked in who came up as base on visual because the person checking in didn't go into their tier, click the tier, and then see what tier there actually are. So I go by that. And then when I do my bucket check, I go through every single reservation, as I recommend everybody in Night Audit does. Make sure things are posted correctly. Go through everybody's tier. And then what I do is I sign people up for promos that are current for that time period and based on what affinity program they are affiliated with. Now, again, you would print this off again and go from there. Now, another report that you want to do is your in-house guests. Okay, include. I do it by room number. You don't have to. You can do it by guest name, but it makes it more convenient for you to compare to your room rack list. Now, this shows all the comments because we included guest comments. I recommend you do this because this will tell you information that other front desk agents type in. For example, I typed in that I registered this guest for the Winter 22 promo, which starts today. So this guy is going to be getting lots of bonus points later on. virtual card, folio B for incidental, other pertinent information. This guy's tax exempt, he has a government rate. So this is the per diem, okay. Departures is not really important for you to deal with unless you're in audit. This is something that we print off immediately after we run audit. I say immediately after, you don't have to immediately do it, but it should be done when you're completed with audit itself. So let's assume that we already ran audit. This is now the 6th. Yeah, we know, invalid date, we don't care. The 6th, here it is. I can print this off now if I want because there's only 11 people in house. And these are all the people departing. So again, audit, you would print this out. Another thing I recommend, highly recommend Night Audit to do is market segment. Now, that doesn't come up here per se. You have to go into in-house, and we're going to go into reports. We're going to click as soon as this loads. Don't mind my hand there. We're going to click market segment. Refresh. This is very important. This shows the rate that guests are being charged for this business day. This business day being the 5th. Okay. This is important for audit for several reasons, because we cross-reference this with every single reservation in room rack to be sure that the posting is done correctly and that the rates are correct, that everything in the reservation is accurate. We use this as a cross-reference. I do not trust, when you run audit, there's the pre-room and tax report. I do not trust that because there have been several instances where it's showing a different rate or different information than what is actually on the reservation. For example, the override may have been set to a specific rate, but the reservation was extended, and it'll still show that override rate in the pre-room and tax report, even though it's not accurate anymore because it hasn't been updated for the other dates in that reservation since it was extended. So this is something that audit should use all the time. Cross-reference this with every reservation. So you print this off, okay, and you go and compare it to room rack. You go through every reservation, 113, 124, yada, 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 make sure everything is done right. Now, something else, report-wise, that you can do, let me go to here again, is the transaction log or trans log, which is very similar to operator cash out. It's essentially the same, except with trans log you get one sheet of paper, not two. So this is going to be your cash intake, your cash drop. So I have a $5 drop. Okay? At the end of each shift, you should print this out. Now for audit, you may have two separate drops because again, we roll the business date forward. We run audit. Therefore, we're here 2 days. So if you have any transactions that are done after audit, you'll have to print this off again. So there are a couple ways you can do this. You can print this here directly, or when you do run audit, you can go through the reports and it'll show operator cash out. You can print that out if you want to, but just limit it to the first page, not 2 pages. That way you save paper. Now, if we didn't want to do it that way, if we wanted to do it operator cash out, this is how we would do it. Go to operator cash out, and bumping around there. We're going to switch this to me. Category, cash, refresh. Ta-da! go to print. All right. And then that's what you get. Now again, it prints off 2 pages. You don't want to, you just want the one. So again, these are the reports that you should be printing out. There are some reports you can get off of PBX. You can print these if you want to. I don't recommend that you do it. It's an alternative. I don't recommend it because you don't get as much information. For example, if we do guest, this is just for wake-ups. If we do arrivals, come on. This doesn't show the rates. It shows what room they're checked into, which is kind of pertinent. It shows comments, but it doesn't show what rate they have, what amount they have. So from an audit standpoint, this is not particularly useful. You can print it this way if you want to. I just don't recommend it. Departures, you can do it this way. This is, again, departures for earlier today. Oops, let me switch this back to the 6th. And then the 6th. Again, this does not show the rate, and you can't change this to, it's defaulting to name. You can't switch this to room number. It won't let you, which is kind of annoying. So again, you're gonna get most of your reports from front office reports here. And another report that you might want to do is the 2-week forecast, which you can also get through your availability. I don't always print this off, but this is sometimes useful to do so because it can show you what dates, for example, the 10th coming up, we're going to be most likely sold out. And this will show you what rooms you have available, total out of order rooms, that's out of order, by room type, stuff like that. The blocks that you have, what rooms have already been allocated, what rooms are left to allocate, stuff like that is all here. I typically don't do that, but you can. And again, another way to print off all these reports at once, I say all, most of them, you won't get market segments, and you won't get departures, even though it'll say print off departures. You don't get departures for that day. Another way you can do it is, this is what most people do, but again, for audit, you're gonna want a couple other things, is downtime reports. And it'll say arrivals, departures. You don't get this though. In-house and room rack. Continue, you would say yes. And that's everything. Except you'll notice, where's my departures list? Well, you don't have one, which kind of sucks. But you have your in-house, and this is kind of useless information. I don't know why when you do in-house, it just does that by default. That's why, where's my mouse? That's why you have to, for in-house report, you include checkout with balance, include guest comments. You don't necessarily have to do this, but I find it very useful. This reduces it to who exactly is in house that day. That way you don't get extra bloatware, essentially, of blocks that have already left and stuff. That doesn't matter. This is what's pertinent right here. So that is all. This is how you print off front office reports in Visual Matrix Cloud.